But I think we have like another caller in here. Maybe uh, coming from New Mexico, area code 575. What's going on?
What's up, man? It's Austin Trout in the building. Appreciate y'all having me on.
No doubts in the building. What's going on? What's going on?
Not much, man. Just got done training. About to grab some food, take a shower, and lay it down, baby.
Yeah. You're getting prepared for this upcoming fight Sunday, February 17th against Juan De Angel over in El Paso, Texas here. So just wanted you to talk real fast about that upcoming bout. Like you said, you were done training over in the gym. I'm not sure if you were still in New Mexico or you're over in Texas right now, so you could expand on that here a little bit.
Mhm. No, I'm in New Mexico. Actually, where I'm training and where I live is like 40 minutes from where we're fighting at, so it works out. This is pretty much my hometown that I get to fight in.
Right. Yeah, that was my thing. It was like since this fight card was over there in El Paso, it shouldn't have been that much of a travel schedule for you to get over there and kind of like be prepared for this particular fight card that will have Devin Alexander, Victor Ortiz as part of that fight card. But with you coming back here against Juan De Angel, this will still be in the super welterweight division, correct?
Yes. I mean, it's a few pounds north. It's 157. My thing is, if it ain't for a title or title eliminator, why do I have to make 154? So, yes, it's still 154 pounds, really, plus or minus 3 pounds.
Yeah, true. So pretty much, getting back into the thick of things, you did have a fight last year over at the Barclays Center in October against Jarrett Hurd for the IBF Super Welterweight Championship, and that was a very good back and forth fight, tough fight for you and Jarrett Hurd. That it was like a pretty much an action-packed fight. A lot of people liked the action that was in that particular matchup there, but unfortunately you weren't able to pull it out. Wanted you to kind of like get into that a little bit. If you kind of like see something that you didn't, you weren't able to do in that particular matchup in order to pull off the win, or is there like something that you may wanted to improve on in your game, going forward?
Well, I'm always looking to improve, and then if you don't learn a lesson in the loss, then you truly lost. And for that fight, hats off to Jarrett Hurd. His will and determination was more than I expected. As far as what I should have done differently in the fight, maybe box more, maybe use a little more of my thing. But to be honest, I had to go to the hospital for severe dehydration. Now, I've never been dehydrated in my life, not like that. And it makes sense, after the sixth round, I just kind of hit that cliff and I couldn't recover anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And no excuse, it was Jarrett Hurd's fault. He just kept coming and made me keep pushing as well. But I think that the lesson I learned before, not necessarily in the fight, but it was preparation before the fight. I should have kept the electrolytes up, been more aware of my liquid intake or something, as far as dehydration goes. Now, as far as the performance goes, I felt like I was able to do whatever I wanted to do, even when I was forcing a lot of the shots. It's just, again, he's a very a very strong, tough dude, and he's residual as hell. Like, I hit him with everything, and the boy kept coming. And so, really, I'm not trying to sit here and make excuses. It is what it is. I was dehydrated. Hurd is big and tough. I would love to get that back, especially after, having a 17-month layoff and then jumping in and fighting a killer like Jarrett Hurd. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back because, damn, I did all right. But now that the 17-month layoff is done, I'm about to get a nice tune-up. I'm not even looking at it as a tune-up because this dude's got 20 wins, 18 knockouts, and one punch can turn everything around. But getting busy and getting back to staying busy and sharp, I would love for the rematch for Hurd. I guarantee that the ring rust being off, it'd be a different outcome. But now we also know that this dude, you can hit him with everything you want. It doesn't matter. He's going to still be there. So with that in mind, I felt like I was going to slow him down, and I never did. So with that in mind, we would fight a bit of a different fight.
Different fight. Yeah, those two things that you brought up in reference to this particular fight, the whole thing with the dehydration and the amount of punches that you were able to throw at him and land that didn't necessarily affect him. Wanted to touch on that a little bit more because, like you were saying, it just seemed like you were kind of like it seemed like you were fading away there after round 6 or 7. It was like a stark difference than those first 6 rounds because you were boxing very well against Jarrett Hurd. You were hitting him with very good counters there that had him in trouble a little bit. So for me, I thought you were, winning pretty much most of those first 6 rounds because of the way that you were boxing and moving around the ring and controlling the pace of the fight. But, he was able to still stand there, able to take those shots, and, pretty much at the tail end of that particular fight, he was able to, impose his will and eventually get the win. One of the things that I was analyzing in reference to that particular matchup was the size difference between y'all two. I mean, I've seen Jarrett Hurd, outside the ring. He was in attendance for Gary Russell Jr.'s last particular matchup over at the MGM National Harbor, and it's his overall size is, to me, much bigger than a super welterweight. It's almost like he could be at the super middleweight division or something like that.
Yeah, he's a big dude, he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he made weight. It's not and not to mention he had a weigh-in at 64 limit the next morning, and he made that weight too. So I don't know how these big-ass dudes is making this weight like they are, because my fight before her was with Charlo, who's another big-ass
Charlo, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I might as well go to middleweight. Hell, Canelo's looking a little small to me now compared to, Charlo or Hurd.
The thing is, that's a couple of points that I bring up in reference to some of these fighters there. You have the Charlos, you have Jarrett Hurd there that's at the super welterweight division, and over at welterweight, I bring up Errol Spence Jr., IBF welterweight champion. Yeah, he's a big welterweight because he's around 156 or 157 or so, I think, in his walk-around weight, and then he's able to come down to 140.
I wouldn't be surprised if homeboy walks around 175.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of those fighters that are able to now come down to the limit for the particular division that they want to fight for, but then by the time the fight night comes up, it's you see them out there in the ring, and they're like, wait a minute, are they 175 pounds or something? I'm like, what's going on? So, that's one of the things that, I kind of see here with these particular fighters. Like you were saying here, you got this upcoming fight with Juan De Angel to, get back in the thick of things, and then, I'll be on the lookout to see, where you could go here from this point. As far as I know, they have you here in the WBC rankings, but I'd like to see if you get back in the IBF to eventually get that rematch against Jarrett Hurd there. Particularly now since, he has an upcoming fight against Erislandy Lara. It's a title unification. So the super welterweight division is going to have a lot of activity over the course of this year, and of course you want to be a big part of that.
I need to be all up in there, baby, all through there. I've already fought the title holders except for Ali and except for the other Charlo. You know what I mean? And really, I need to get right back in there. A win here is gonna help me, jump my rankings up. The next fight, I'm looking to jump into a title shot or even just to get another name that's going to set me up for a title shot. But 2018, I need to get back in title contention and even back in there for a title. I mean, that's my goals, and I always speak them out loud because, you put it out there and the Most High hears and he'll give it back. And that's what I'm working towards. So you're right, absolutely right. There's a lot of things happening in the 154-pound division. I know Vonis Martirosyan got a title eliminator with somebody. And then he's going to be able to fight Charlo again, I think, for the BC. So that's something interesting that's going to happen. Even though I believe Charlo already beat Vonis. But things are shaking up, and I need to my name needs to be mentioned with all these guys. And it's okay if they're not mentioning it now; they will. I'll force that conversation.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I have to see what's going on with Baines there, because he had his fight against Erislandy Lara back in 2016 over in Las Vegas, and we really hadn't heard much from him since. And I kind of I was thinking about maybe it may have been something that he was talking about after the fight, but I'm not sure there. I just have one thing I'm gonna bring up before the other callers. I'm gonna bring back the other callers here on the show. You were talking about, like you're saying, get back into the rankings, or try to get another title shot after this particular fight. There is one particular fighter out there that may be able to get you right back into the thick of things in a bunch of those boxing organizations there in the rankings, and that is, the fight that we were kind of seeing if we were going to be able to see, but we were able to see it over the past couple of years, and that's you against Julian J-Rock Williams. J-Rock is, from what I'm seeing here, is ranked number 3 in the WBC and ranked number 6 in the IBF. So, a fight between you and him.
I'll be right back in the bang. Like I said, I'm trying to get a name after this fight if it's not a title shot. And honestly, J-Rock would be a perfect name in position for me after this fight. And not just that, it should be a good check too, because J-Rock brings a certain tenacity from the game, and I bring a certain finesse, and I believe that would be a good fight for us both. Me better, in my opinion.
Yep, exactly. All right, I'm going to bring in a couple of callers that were here on the line, see if they have any questions. First, I'm going to have area code 813 come in, and then area code 205. We also have area code 646. I'm going to have you on hold here for a little bit.
No problem. Appreciate y'all calling in, even if y'all talking shit. Let's get the conversation going.
So 813, you have a question for No Doubt Trout?
Yeah, sure do. Hey, Austin, this is Trout calling from Tampa. What's going on with you?
How you doing, brother? I'm good, my man.
Good, man. Everything good. So, first of all, I've been a boxing fan since forever, and definitely been a contributor to the show for a long time as well. But, I mean, just so you know it, you've been talked about on the show numerous times. and it's always in the positive note. So first of all, thank you for your career. Thank you for putting Las Cruces, New Mexico on the fight, on the map, that is. So we know all about you, because I remember way back when you fought Cotto and you got that win against him. A lot of people like, New Mexico.
Yeah. Who's this black dude from New Mexico? They must have had a typo.
Yeah, but even and I was glad that fact I know that fight was on HBO. I'm glad that HBO did a spotlight story on your life, on your background, just to bring us up to date on who you are and what you've done to that point. So I mean, once again, kudos for you for all that you've done. You know, you're coming in at 30-4 as far as your record. Your losses only to Canelo, which I know you won that fight. You know you won that fight. Hurd and a couple other people, the 4 losses, we know about that. But even just going back to the Canelo fight, I mean, just think of how your career would have changed, would be different now if you had actually gotten that decision. You know, So, I mean, but we already know that the sport of boxing is rough. It's a business. Sometimes the decision doesn't go your way, particularly your fight with Canelo. But I should just imagine on your career path could have been from that point if you would have actually got that win over him. Could have probably got a rematch, things like that. But that didn't happen. Here we are right now, and we're glad that you're on the show. Glad that you're still at it, and glad that you're still hungry. So I mean, just at this point, I know you say that you want to get a name in your next fight after next weekend, but just talk about the politics of boxing as far as getting an actual top fighter in the ring for a title shot. Can you just talk about that?
The politics is ugly in boxing. You know, I don't know any other sport or business that runs the way it does here. And I've had to learn, you know, how to practice good business skills and good business manners from something else. Because I just figured it was all like boxing, you know, and I would go into these business meetings with the kind of a boxing business mentality, and it wouldn't get me nowhere. So I learned how to do, you know, proper business from outside of boxing. But as far as the politics goes, it's ugly. I mean, you see the top people are fighting amongst each other. You know, Bob Arum and Al Heyman and Golden Boy. You know, they're all so happy. I've been fortunate enough to be on the side with Al Heyman, who has a lot of the 154 pounders. Aside from, you know, Canelo, who's really a middleweight now. So as far as me being able to get an opportunity to fight anybody with a belt, I have a good opportunity for that. You know, I'm not 86 because I'm with the right guy right now. And then also, you know, Ali, I believe, is the only other champion that Al doesn't have. But if I wasn't with Al, you know, like you said, the politics is ugly. There would be no chance. There would be no chance in hell for me to get that. And not saying that Al just don't mess with people outside. It's just whoever I'm with probably wouldn't work with Al to make these fights happen. And that's what I'm seeing is happening, is that a lot of people are not trying to work with the man to make the fight happen. And instead they want to – I mean, you've seen HBO. All they have is Canelo Triple G. You know, other than that, they really don't have nobody that they want to fight. And that's all because they don't want to work with Al to get, you know, make some fights happen.
Yeah, that's a key point right there in reference to HBO. It's something that we've raised in the past as far as like their overall direction with HBO boxing, particularly with the pay-per-view, as they do have Canelo Triple G2 coming up. But other than that, there really isn't that much in reference to a, you know, pay-per-view type of event there for HBO, unless the winner of those of that matchup either has a rematch or goes up against Billy Joe Saunders for all of the major middleweight titles. In reference to what Terrell was saying, as far as like politics were concerned, you did bring up that fight against Canelo, and that particular fight, I watched that too, and I knew you were outboxing Canelo and things like that, but that open scoring, I just didn't like that open scoring. They kind of like had you losing a fight, and I'm like, wait, what? Are you serious? You got to be kidding me. And, you know, Canelo ended up getting the decision, and that fight was, you know, really a key fight in that particular division. That was a, you know, unification match, number one, and then, you know, number two, with Canelo ended up getting the decision. His next bout was against Floyd Mayweather Jr. September 2013, and that was, you know, that ended up being one of the biggest events in the sport of boxing. So with Terrell asking about the whole thing with your direction in your career, yeah, if you were able to get that decision, I mean, you know, you would have, you know, had that
possibly
bout.
Had Floyd
you know,
next. Yeah, that's how I see it. You know, if I won that fight, I might have had that Floyd fight next. You know, I mean, maybe not, but still, that the talk would have been there. You know, I could have done whatever I wanted at that point, to be honest. But you know, the Most High, He has plans, and it wasn't my destiny to take that fight or to go that route. Everything in my career I've had to do the hard way, in my opinion. And so why start getting anything easy now?
Gotcha. All right, we have 205 here, Mike. If you have a question for No Doubt, go on ahead.
Hi, Austin. Appreciate you coming to the show, man.
And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for calling in.
Okay. Thank you. So I must tell you that I am definitely a fan of yours, and I appreciate all of the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into the ring every time you go out. Watching your career, you've never had a dull performance, and you've always given, you can tell that you come into the ring to win every time. And
Thank you,
as
man.
a fan, I really appreciate you for that.
That means a lot. That really does. It means a lot. 'Cause that's what we do it for. We want y'all to understand we put our life into this, and for you to appreciate it, that's awesome.
Thank you. So I would ask a question that would speak to your detractors. So let's say someone sees the fight with Hurd and they say, "Oh, Austin Trout is finished." What would you say to those detractors that would, first of all, I know you don't have to say anything to them, but if you had to say something, what would you say to them to let them know that you're still here and you're still a name to be reckoned with?
I'll tell them that's funny because I heard I was finished before I even started, and now, world title later, some great fights later, you still trying to say I'm finished. That's good. They told me I was finished before I started, so that don't mean much to me. That means that I'm on the right track still, because I won a world title when they said I was finished.
Respect. So how would you see a fight with Saddam Ali going if you were to get that fight? Like if you take this fight and, of course, win it and, maybe get a good name and Saddam Ali's name comes up, how would you see that fight going?
No, I think that would be a good fight. Saddam Ali, he brings a lot of things to the table. He's much bigger than I thought he was. I thought he was going to be small compared to Cutler, but he looks like he's the right size. I'll tell you right now, my hands will be raised at the end of that fight. That's for sure. I feel like he brings a lot of things to the table, but I bring more, including 154 body that's been at 154 for his whole career. I see a late stoppage or a unanimous decision for myself in that fight.
Okay. All right, and my last question. So having what do you think happens in the Hurd-Lara fight? Just your gut feeling. What do you think happens in that fight?
That's crazy because Hurd, man, he's got the goods to beat Lara. He's got the style to beat Lara. You remember when Carlos Molina fought Arizona Lara a few years back? He just, he didn't respect. He just was in his ass and stayed in his chest. Same thing with El Perro Angulo, and that's Hurd right there. Except he's big too. He's big and he's relentless. So I'd like to say Hurd, man, but man, this dude Lara, being in the ring with both of them, I've never wanted a fight to end so quick, so badly when I was in the ring with Lara. Just because his timing and his accuracy is ridiculous. But now, again, it might not mean nothing to Hurd because if he could walk through that left hand, I got Hurd winning. But if Lara could stop him in his tracks with the left hand or even stand him up, then it's going to be a long night for Hurd. I would like for Hurd, actually for whoever wins, I just need them to beat up the dude worse than I got beat up by him. You know what I'm saying? So if Hurd wins, I need him to stop him in the 5th round. And if Lara wins, I need him to stop Hurd, before the bell rings. That way I look better.
Yeah, definitely. And so I would like to bring up, at some point, if the material gets beat on enough, the material is not as strong. And so definitely Hurd took some shots in your fight with him. And so at some point, we got to question, will he be able to continue walking through punches?
Right.
Because that can't happen forever.
It sure can. That's how you get broke down. But again, Hurd is young. He's only 25, I think 26 maybe. So I think he's got a few more shots he can walk through. But can he walk through that accurate left hand that you don't see coming? Because Lara throws that joint, and it's like you never see it leave his chin. You know what I mean? You only see it going back to his chin.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's going to be a key fight upcoming in April 7th. And my thing was, I was like kind of siding with Jarrett Hurd, number one, because of that possible rematch, there with you, Austin, but also, the possibility of having a unified champion with Jarrett Hurd and Charlo, because I doubted that Lara and Charlo would ever fight each other. So, maybe if Hurd gets this win here against Lara, then that Charlo fight would be in the future, but not if you were able to get to Hurd first.
Exactly. If I could get back in there with her, man, hey, I'm telling you, it's going to be 100% different. It's going to be 180 degrees difference. I'm not, ain't no ring rust to knock out. Ain't going to mess with no dehydration. Like, a healthy me will beat Hurd. And there was evidence in the first 6 rounds. When I wasn't healthy, that's when I couldn't do it no more. But a healthy Trout will beat Hurd.
Gotcha. No, exactly. Now we got area code 646 should be on the line. If you're in, and if you have a question for Brother Austin, go right ahead and ask it.
Yeah, this is Matt from the Bronx. What up, James? How you doing, Austin? Glad that you can join us.
I'm good. How you doing, man?
Really, my question is not really about boxing or your career in general. Just, I just want to know, like, obviously you've been through wars in boxing. Nothing lasts forever. I was just wondering, do you already have, like, your exit strategy in place? Like, what are your plans after boxing? I'm not saying that it's happening anytime soon.
Right.
But,
no, you're right. And we should all be thinking about this. And, I started thinking about this, honestly, like, really 3 years ago, which I feel like it was too late. And just if any fighters out there listening now, think about your exit strategy now. Not that you ever want to think about the end. It's just that this shit pops up on you before you know it. And this boxing game is brutal. So to have, try to stack your chips. My exit strategy is real estate. I got a couple properties. I just built this house that I'm going to probably, next year I'm going to turn around and flip. And just keep on flipping from there. I also have some investments that I have. I'm looking into the cannabis business that I have some investments popping off. And hopefully those things materialize. Also, I have a commentating little career that I've been doing for the last 2 years. And when I focus on that, I think that we can end up taking that to another level. But I feel like I'm behind. I should have been thinking about this 5-6 years ago. That way, 5-6 years ago, I could have that interest coming in, or even whatever business I started 6 years ago could be popping off now, and I wouldn't have to be living off these fight checks. But yeah, man, you're right, and I've been thinking about it a lot. Real estate, commentating, and just investments like that. Of course, and I'm gonna train kids. I gotta give back, the knowledge that's been bestowed on me. Training kids, that's really a free thing. I wouldn't charge no child to learn how to box, but if your mom wants to learn, or your the doctor and his wife, they want to be taught how to get in fitness, they gotta pay. They gotta pay for that.
Yeah. I was glad that Matt was able to bring up that question in reference to retirement, because it's like you said. I mean, a lot of these boxers don't really think about that when they're in the course of their professional career. And I brought up earlier before you came on, I brought up the fight on Thursday over in Pensacola with Roy Jones Jr. Getting his 66th professional win there against Scott Sigmund, and him basically hanging up his glove there after being in the professional game for over 28 years.
Wow.
So that, so he's had a long and decorated career, and it was one of the most talented fighters of our time, and probably of all time, according to many. But it's like you said, I mean, a lot of these fighters don't really necessarily plan their exit strategies, so to speak. And, for you to, have these businesses going on, and like I said, or like you said, the commentary thing, when you're on in the other PBC telecasts. So I mean, it's like a lot of people don't necessarily have that type of plan in place there, and they end up, basically being either broke or being in lots of trouble. We've had those stories, many stories before. We had like a notable former heavyweight champion that's been in a lot of trouble, or is currently in a lot of trouble there. But on the flip side, you have another former heavyweight champion that's, trying to get back into the ring, back in the game, but also is investing in the cannabis business himself. So as long as you have that type of plan, at least you have something to fall back on once, your professional boxing career, winds to a close.
No, you're right, and I'm just trying to follow the steps of some of the OGs ahead of me, and they've been telling me, bro, you gotta worry about what you're gonna do after boxing. And my whole outlook on that was, man, I'm gonna fight forever. I'm Bernard Hopkins in it. You know what I'm saying? When I'm 50, I'll worry about it, but it ain't the case. Don't get me wrong. I feel great. I feel good. I'm 32. The wars I've been in weren't even wars. I feel like I'm a young 32 for being in this game for the 22 years I've been. A lot of guys that I've been fighting with from the amateurs up in way worse shape than I am. So, I look at it like that. Also, too, being on team, with Al Heyman, he has us going to the Cleveland Brain Center in Las Vegas once a year. We get our brain tested, all kinds of tests, memory, balance, all kinds of things. And what they do is they look at your results from the year before and the year before and the year before and see if there's any slowing down. So that will be a good gauge for me as well. Not saying that it's going to make me quit, but it's still it's a good gauge to know when it's time to hang them up.
Yeah, exactly. Just seeing if anyone else that's on the line here had another question for him. 205, I don't know if there's like some type of feedback coming from your phone, but like I'm kind of like hearing something. I don't know where that's coming from though. But yeah, if anyone else has questions for No Doubt, go right ahead and ask them.
So I have it's 205 again. I still have questions. So
yeah.
I imagine you're a connoisseur of boxing. We always have, our discussion amongst ourselves on who will be on top of the heavyweight mountain. What's your take on who will be the best heavyweight after it's all said and done?
Man, I think it comes down between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Right now, in my opinion, I think Anthony Joshua is a better fighter all around. He's got the Olympic pedigree. He's got that. Deontay's got the Olympic pedigree too, but let's all be honest. He made the Olympics off his brute strength. Now he's learning skill, and so Joshua, I think he's got the skill, the strength, and whatnot. But if Joshua was smart, I think he should have made that fight with Wilder like last year, like ASAP, because Deontay's only getting better, and it ain't gonna be so cut and dry if he waits till, let's say, end of this year or next year even. But give Wilder 2 years, he'll beat Joshua easy. If you fight him now, or fight him, the end of this year, it's a toss-up because Deontay's got that brute strength.
Okay, that's very, very.
And who's a sleeper there? Who's a real good heavyweight that people don't even they sleep on a lot? Travis Kaufman. As far as skills go, Travis got mad skills. He can punch a bit. He fights kind of like a middleweight. And him, that fight between Kaufman and Amir Mansour, that was one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen in a long time. Better than the Klitschko Joshua fight, in my opinion.
Oh, word.
Yeah, it was a good fight.
It was a good fight. They threw a lot of punches. They used a lot of skill. It wasn't just who's stronger. And we know Mansour, he's strong as heck, too.
Yep. Yeah. He's a very tough fighter, Amir Mansour is. He's been in a lot of, tough fights, and there's a tough out for anybody that faces him. So, yeah. So that was a, pretty good matchup between those two. But, yeah, Kaufman, if he's able to get back into the Think of things in the heavyweight game, that would, kind of like mix things up a little bit there in the heavyweight division. It's just that we have a big month coming up for March in reference to the heavyweights. As we have that Wilder Ortiz over at the Barclays Center on March 3rd, and then at the end of the month, you're going to have the unification with Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. So that's going to be the big month there for the heavyweight division.
It is, and can we talk about the Deontay Wilder Ortiz fight real quick? How do you fail a drug test, right? Get the fight called off, and then get the fight turned around and put right back on. Like I don't know how you are not. I thought there was like a suspension for a while. I thought you had like a year suspension to go through or something if you get caught for banned substances.
I'm going to open up the floor for the panel to answer that question before I get into it.
No, you don't have your conspiracy music, James?
I want to see the fight. I wanted to see the fight in the beginning, but I don't know. I mean, this ain't the first time that Ortiz has been caught, neither. So throw that back out there. This is a repeat offense, and this should be an example made.
My perspective on it is that Ortiz got caught with his hands in the cookie jar again. I mean, if you're taking blood pressure medication, any athlete knows anything you're taking, you're supposed to declare it when you're doing drug testing. Every athlete knows that. So you mean to tell me that this guy all of a sudden didn't know that he had to get taking blood pressure medication? So obviously this guy got his hand caught in the cookie jar again. But the WBC can't prove it because he can just say, oh, I didn't know, I forgot to put it down. So they can't really prove it. So what can they really do? All they can really do is take it at his word, so they can't prove it. Now, if it was me, I'd have suspended him at least a year, maybe 2 years. Not the first time he got caught doping. But they want to err on the side of caution because at the end of the day, they need that sanctioning fee.
Right, they need that money.
Well, Big Baby's with Hurd now, so he's probably going to be fighting for the WBA and IBF. He's not going to be fighting for the WBC anymore. They had the whole issue with Povetkin, so he's really, who are they collecting sanctioning fees from? These guys, what they're trying to do is they're trying to build towards Joshua versus Wilder. The only way
because that's what they want, and that sanctioning fee is going to be crazy.
Yeah,
but you're right. I mean, the money makes the rules.
They need Wilder to have some credible names on his resume. Ortiz, HBO, and Golden Boy convinced us for years that he's the boogeyman that nobody wants to face in the heavyweight division. So now that Deontay Wilder is fighting him, if Deontay Wilder beats him, it makes him look like a world beater. It's only going to make the Joshua fight even bigger.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's not right, but that makes sense. It makes money. That's why.
Mm-hmm. All right, Terrell, if you could answer the question there real quick, and then I'm going to get Mike Grady back on before my conspiracy thing comes up. So, Terrell, you want to answer that question?
Well, I mean, that's my main point too, and the reason why this fight is happening is money. It's a money fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame, like you stated, Austin. Typically, when someone positive for PEDs or whatever it is, at that point, there's always a suspension. Look back at Povetkin, people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even I'm trying to think of this guy actually it was Ortiz that when he fought Latif KO'd a few years back at KO's first heavyweight fight, he popped positive in that regard going forward, and got suspended. And like I said, why is he fighting Ortiz with no suspension, no slap on the wrist per se? Money. That's the simple answer. It's money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you come into, like we talked about earlier, the politics of boxing. It's who you know, whose back can you slap, things like that. And this has been a part of boxing for a long time, from Don King, Bob Arum, HBO. It ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. That's where it gets dangerous.
I'm gonna get Mike Grady here back on here to answer the
Yeah.
question, and then I'll get into it. Go ahead, Mike.
So I agree with everyone where we say that it's politics as usual. It is what it is. Like you said, that probably won't be changed as long as the motivator of money is in boxing, and it'll always be in boxing. But I agree with you, Austin, where you say that Deontay Wilder would only get stronger and stronger when he fights, Anthony Joshua. But I think if the fight goes past 6 rounds, Anthony Joshua is in trouble because his win is not great at all. It's not great. And if he doesn't get Wilder out in the first 4 or 5 rounds, it's going to be hell to pay past round 6.
That's true. I see that happening. And for a long time, we didn't know if Wilder could even go 12 rounds. His first 12-round match was against Severn.
Very true.
So, true. There's a lot of questions in that fight. There's a lot of questions that, and mostly for me, the questions are on Wilder's side, because basically we've seen Joshua against one of the greatest heavyweights of our time, and that's Klitschko. And yeah, it was an older Klitschko, but still, nonetheless, he's still Klitschko.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what makes it exciting. The fact that there are so many questions. And to your point, James, which I already know what you're gonna say. He's gonna say that they're pushing for Wilder to be in this golden position to fight Joshua, but I think Wilder is gonna do what he needs to do. He's gonna beat Ortiz, and then when it comes time for him to fight Joshua, he'll beat Joshua. I mean, he can't do anything but win.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yep. All right, Brother Austin Trout, here's my answer to your question. Of course, you've been on this show before a couple of years ago, but over the course of this podcast here, I have been accused as the biggest Deontay Wilder hater on the planet, and that I never give Wilder credit for the wins that he's had over the course of his professional career. In this particular case with Luis Ortiz, like you were saying, it's kind of like weird that the fight between him and Deontay Wilder was kind of like scrapped due to the whole thing with the form and not being able to fill out the form in reference to what he was taking.
Right.
But for him to basically test positive, for a substance and kind of like be suspended for a year on the WBA side. The WBA made their decision to suspend him and remove him from the rankings because it was basically his second offense while being ranked in the WBA. But in reference to the WBC, it's like they made that decision for, like what you said, for money because, not that long after Deontay Wilder faced Bermond Severn on November 4th, you had Luis Ortiz in the ring over in the Miami area, just that fast.
Yeah.
But that to me, that's like part of the whole thing with the WBC and how they kind of like judge things separately from all the other organizations because
which that doesn't happen. If one's suspended, usually they all uphold that, which is crazy.
Yeah. I brought up a couple of examples. You have in one of those fights, Orlando Salido. He was facing, I think it was Vasquez or I have to look it up because the guy that he fought held the title, but he tested positive, for a substance, and it was Francisco Vargas. And he was still able to hold that title before his fight against Orlando Salido. and that ended up being a majority draw in one of the best fights in the year 2016.
Yeah.
And the other example that I bring up is Luis Neri, who currently holds a title. He tested positive after his title win, and he was able to keep the title, and he's about to defend the title if he hasn't done so recently already. So for me, it's like the WBC has been inconsistent in their rulings as far as like fighters testing positive, under the clean boxing program that they have adopted with
You're supposed to be for the whole year, right? 365. You're supposed to be able to be tested and whatnot. And what? Now that I think about it, you're right. The WBC is very inconsistent because I don't remember when Danny Garcia fought Eric Morales the second time. Morales came up dirty, and they knew this though. They the second time he was piss test back in Mexico, he came up dirty, and then he piss test dirty again, like in New York, and they was like, yeah, we did. We had a dirty one, and basically whatever it was they explained, he still fought, and he still fought for the belt. And it was it was that rematch clause that he exercised. Because he wanted the WBA belt. So, it's funny, though, that they still allowed that to happen for Morales and Garcia. That was a WBC-WBA fight. Now, I don't know what the ruling was for the WBA, but I know the WBC ain't do nothing about it.
It's that good old tainted Mexican beef.
That's what they keep saying, Matt, is like tainted Mexican beef. But I'm like, okay, what type of beef is this to be? Like, yeah, exactly. Stop eating it. You know what I mean? So I just don't understand that whole thing there in reference to the whole testing policies with the WBC and the clean boxing program. One other thing that I wanted to touch on here in reference to what's going on at the Don Haskins Convention Center in El Paso, Texas. You have a couple of fights there. Also, as part of the card, you have that main event welterweight fight between Devin Alexander and Victor Ortiz, and also a super middleweight fight between undefeated Caleb Plant going up against Rogelio Porky Medina. I wanted to see if you could, touch on those two fights real fast, particularly the welterweight fight with Alexander and Ortiz, as Alexander, recently returned from an extended layoff, getting a win against Walter Castillo back in November, and he had like a very tough battle with addiction in the 2 years that he was out, and he was able to get himself recovered and come back in order to have that fight with Castillo, and now here he is here with Victor Ortiz, and what I would say is a very key bout in the welterweight division to see if either one of those fighters could stay in the mix at welterweight. No,
it's a good card from top to bottom. Starting with the main event, Ortiz and Alexander. Both these guys are kind of at a crossroad. Alexander coming off of a layoff, like you said, but the layoff was due to he was on an opioid addiction, man. He got caught up on those pills, and he was able to beat the addiction too, which says a lot about him and his inner strength. The way I'm kind of gauging this fight is I look at their fights between Marcos Maidana, and I know both of those guys fought that Mark Maidana a long time ago, but it tells a lot about, I guess, the skill set one and the heart of the other. Devin Alexander beat Maidana probably easier than anybody I've seen beat Maidana, including Floyd. He just boxed him beautifully. Whereas Ortiz and Maidana, in my opinion, Ortiz was winning. They traded knockdowns. Ortiz was winning. He had Maidana on the downslide, but then Ortiz quit on the stool. Talking about, I'm too young to be taking these hits. And I believe that was Ortiz's first loss. But based off that fight, I think Devin's got a lot to fight for. He's got a lot to prove. He's obviously still hungry. I don't know if my man Victor is as hungry as Devin is. And I see skill-wise Devin coming out on top. But vicious Victor Ortiz still got a hell of a left hand. He always punches. He comes with some tenacity until you take his heart. So, it's an interesting fight. It's going to be, like you said, a lot of questions, which makes fights interesting. But I think I have Alexander coming out with the win. Unanimous. And as far as the Medina Plant fight, to me, that's a real toss 'em up fight. We know Porky Medina comes to bang. He brought it to James DeGale, in a close loss decision. He was whooping James's ass in that fight. Caleb, he's a finesse fighter. He's very slick. He's got all the skills in the world, but does he have enough power to keep Medina off of him? Because Mexican fighters don't care about none of that finesse. If you can't hurt them, then they'll be in your chest all night.
Mhm. Yeah, with that particular fight there, I'd like to see how Medina kind of like responds to his last notable fight where he was up against Benavidez there and had that knockout loss there. But like you said, Medina's in your chest all day, every day, and with Caleb Plant, he kind of like has that type of patience where he's at his own pace the whole fight and fights his fight the whole fight. So now you got to see if Porky Medina is going to be able to do something like throw Caleb Plant off his original game plan. And in this main event with Victor Ortiz and Devin Alexander, it's interesting that you did bring up their fights against Marcos Maidana because with Victor Ortiz, he scored a couple of knockdowns and he looked like he was winning the fight, but he just ended up quitting on his stool after those 6 rounds, and that to this day is probably something that a lot of people question as to why he made that particular decision.
And kind of stuck with him. Like once a quitter, always a quitter, and we kind of see that. And not saying, no, all respect to my man Victor. He's been in there with some great fighters, and he's beaten some great fighters. But I think that kind of set the tone as far as his career goes. Because man, he had Maidana. He was winning. He could have won that fight. And had he won that fight, that was a superstar that the world was waiting for him to be.
Yep. Yeah, and with Devin Alexander. Oh yeah.
Can you speak on that feeling that, let's say you're at that point where you have a crossroad and you got to pretty much dig deep. Can you speak on that to like up and coming fighters on what like you harness when you're in that moment, or like what pushes you past that moment?
Well, one thing I like to do, and I've learned this from reading the 33 Laws of War by Robert Greene. Robert Greene has a lot of great books that kind of feed that warrior spirit. But one of the things laws of war, was put your own back to the wall. So, kind of every fight, I look at it as a crossroad fight. If I lose this fight, I have to go all the way back to the end. If I win this fight, I'm at the top. And when your back's against the wall, you end up fighting harder. So like you said, you always got to end up digging deep, knowing that this could be it. So I kind of use that mentality for every fight. Every fight's a crossroad fight in my mind. Like even this fight, what I'm saying? If I lose this fight, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Matter of fact, my last fight, I thought if I lose this fight, it's a wrap. Well, I got another chance. I get another fight. Great. If I lose this fight, it's really a wrap then. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, and the whole thing you were talking about in reference to Victor Ortiz and that label, of quitting and that type of thing, that does stick with you, as a lot of boxing fans kind of keep that with them. Another example, of that was there with who I call Little Chavez, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Kind of gets that because when they had the Pacquiao Mayweather fight, and they saw Chavez Jr. commentating, a lot of people were asking him, "Hey, why you quit? So that's something that kind of sticks, as long as your career lasts, is that if you end up, sitting on the stool and saying you don't want to fight, anymore in that particular fight, then it's going to be part of your career for as long as you're, putting on those gloves.
No, you're right. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
But what is the line between that, though? Let's say you have the fight between Lamont Peterson and Errol Spence Jr. Like, at some point you have to save a fighter from himself or herself. Like, what do you think the line is between, like, being brave and, toughing it out and protecting the fighter? Like, how does one like decide what's the line between that? Or how do you think one should decide between that?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that line. And my coach, thank God he does. But at the same time, I was mad as hell that my coach stopped the fight for my fight. We beefed pretty hard. I was like, yo, could have won that fight. You know what I mean? He was like, yeah, but you didn't have nothing less. I said, yeah, but he didn't either. And I could have finessed the last 2 rounds, this, that. I made all kinds of excuses why I should have kept going. But at the end of the day, he saw something that I didn't. I still have yet to watch the fight. But, having to go to the hospital for severe dehydration, the next 2 rounds could have killed me. So I'm grateful that he loves me enough to pull me out instead of taking the chance for victory, because that's his victory too, So I don't know the line, honestly. And for me, I don't want to know that line until I have a fighter for myself, because really, you know what I mean? I'm trying to go ball to the wall. I'm trying to go until I can't go no more. And that's how we should, as warriors should have it. But at the same time, I want to be able to enjoy my kids and grandkids later on down the line. So that's why I have my coach. That's why he's able to sit there and watch and kind of assess the situation. Because what I saw, what he saw were different. I saw I saw Hurd try to take me out that 10th round, gave his all to take me out, couldn't do it. And when I looked over to the other side, he was done. Like I feel like he spent all he had to take me out. He couldn't do it. But then, my coach said, you couldn't keep your head up. You weren't responding to me. And he's right. He's right. I didn't show signs that I wanted to continue, even though I wanted to continue. If I had enough energy to say, nah, put me back in, let's go right now, I would have done that, but I didn't have enough energy to even say that. So shout out to Louis Burke. I know I was mad at you, but, it's all out of love. And family, we get mad at family, but you can't stay mad at family because, it's family.
Yeah, family's
that's
family, and they it's safety first, kind of like bring up that. And the thing there with Peterson, Barry Hunter, just kind of said that, I just can't let you, be out there and take that type of punishment. So he had to make that call to, save his fighter, and basically, he like treats him like his son. So it's like you're not gonna, have your son, out there in danger or keep putting him out there to, further hurt himself. So,
exactly.
that's the thing that he was able to do there in that particular fight.
And you know what? Right after my fight, I called Barry, and I was just grieved. Like, I can't believe Louis stopped the fight, Barry. And he told me, because Barry's a real one. He don't pull no punches. He don't hold nothing back. He said, listen, Louis saw what I saw. If I was in this corner, I would have stopped the shit, too. We love you more than this boxing thing goes. You know what I mean? This boxing is just an extra. Who we are, but outside of boxing is who we've been and who you're going to be. And, I took that in, and I mulled over it. But then I saw him, be a man to his word. He wasn't just sitting there telling me something and then doing something different. No, same thing. He wouldn't let Lamont take that type of punishment. And so, I had to hit him and say, listen, I know firsthand how hard this is, Coach, and please tell Lamont, keep his head up. He's the best fighter I've ever had the grace of being around. And I appreciate you for being a man of your word. You do what you say you're going to do, and it's not just to make it sound good. You know what I mean? So he's a real one, and they don't have too many real ones like that in the game.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, him over there, Headbangers, him. He's seen the who's who of fighters over there at Headbangers. Of course, you were there, training at one point. So, I mean, you've seen firsthand how much he cares about the fighters that come into his gym. He does, work his fighters over there, but like I said, at the same time, he really cares about them. So he's not going to, put them in too much danger to have them basically, out for the rest of their career or something like that,
Right.
Because, like you were saying, I mean, your life is your life. Once you're in boxing or out of boxing, you still have a life to live. So that's something that, these boxers have to carry on long after they're retired.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Pretty much hit the overtime section of the podcast here on Blog Talk Radio here. So we got other things that we're going to talk about pretty much for the next half hour or so. Not sure if you wanted to stick around, Brother Austin. I know that you got other things that you have to take care of, and then get your final preparations in for your fight against Juan De Angel over there in El Paso, Texas. So if you have anything you want to say, go right ahead and go and do that.
Major shout out to the Boxing Source. Y'all put me on before I was anybody. Y'all keep me on, and I appreciate y'all. The positivity that y'all show to fighters is what I appreciate the most, because in this game, it seems like the first person to get shit on is the fighter, and that doesn't happen over here. So thank you, and I appreciate y'all having me, and I'm looking forward to come back when we have an announcement of that name fighter I'm looking for after I wax Juan De Angel on the 17th.
Yeah, of course, and for folks that are listening in and getting this podcast, be sure to follow Austin No Doubt Trout on social media through No Doubt Trout on Instagram and on Twitter.
Right.
And so
on Facebook
you'll
too,
be able to
at No Doubt Trout.
Facebook on No Doubt Trout as well. So you'll be able to catch everything from them through those social media outlets. And like you said, man, I mean, we're always glad to have you on the show. Always thankful for you coming on to the show. Greatly appreciate it. Like you were saying, you just getting prepared and ready for the 17th, and we'll be having our ears and eyes open for that next big announcement for you to get up there in that super welterweight division. All right.
All right, sounds good, man. Thank you guys again.
All right. Good yourself, man. Thanks.